Okay, let's say you have taken an interest in the game of Dropfleet Commander, whether that be for the aesthetics or whether you've played a game or you've seen a game played, you've taken a little bit of an interest, you have got a faction that you think you want to play because, they look cool or for whatever reason, and now you are in a position, you've read through the rule book, so you have an idea of how the game plays. Comes to building your first fleet, now you have choice paralysis. You have no context to make your decisions on, and you've got no real guidance available online because, for some reason, this fantastic game system has very little online coverage. Okay, so here's where hopefully I come in. So I did think about making a how to play video, but in all honesty, the rule book is free to download from TT Combat. It's a living document. It's mostly up to date. It's patched regularly. You can learn how to play the game yourself. So I'm not going to teach you how to suck eggs. What I am going to do here is hopefully make the list building a little bit easier for those of you who are looking to dip your toe into the system, starting low, and maybe buy the small starter sets, the ones where you get your 3 cruisers and your 4 frigates. So the 6 factions in the game have got a lot of similarities. 2 of them are outliers in a sense, the Shaltari and the Bioficer. Otherwise, there's a lot of similarity between the fleets. You've also got the Resistance, which are a tricky beast to tame because all their ships are fully customizable. So if you think you had choice paralysis with your faction, Resistance is another game altogether. So I'm going to discuss what I would maybe do with my first starter set in order to get a reasonably balanced game against another player with a similar size starter set. And then I'll make another video then with some faction focuses, going through the individual factions and maybe how you would flesh out and grow the list. So the first thing I'm going to discuss is the win condition, because that's the entire reason you're playing the game. You play the game to win the game, right? So you win the game by dropping troops from your ships onto drop sites. These might be space stations. They're more likely to be cities. In saying that, it's usually a 50-50 split. So to drop troops onto the ground, you need ships that are capable of doing so. There's a bit of an unwritten rule in the community that most players will take about a third of their points in something that can either score or interrupt the scoring for your opponent. So such as things that will bombard the site and kill infantry. I'm only going to focus on dropping for the purposes of this video because I think that you are going to find things difficult trying to cram everything into a very small force. So every faction has access to a standard dropship, with the absolute exception of the Bioficers. The Resistance can make one. So you just take a medium cruiser hull and strap a load of bulk landers to it. The Biofighters don't have the same privilege, however. Biofighter ships can all carry a cell, and all those cells can be bulk landers. So you don't necessarily have to worry too much with the Biofighters. But what I would most certainly do is take your first cruiser from your starter set and build your standard dropship. Shaltari and PHR have got options because they have 2 standard class dropships. Now, this is me having my personal preference. I think you are better off making a Ganymede for the PHR because it's more of a well-rounded ship. And I would also consider building a Citrine for the Shaltari. Now, there's probably a pile of Shaltari players now screaming at their phones or tablets or whatever you're watching this format on, because the Emerald is clearly the more efficient option. But what the Citrine is going to give you is actually some punch, which you may need in a smaller game like this. So you've now got your standard troopship. You've now got 4 frigates as well. So most of the factions in the game, if not all, have got a strike carrier class in their frigate selection. I would build at least 2 of those. So you've got the New Orleans, for example, for the UCM. Or you've got the Gargoyles for the Scourge. You've got the Medea for the PHR, which interestingly pair it really nicely with that Ganymede because they both have bombardment. You don't get it so much with the Shaltari. Shaltari use void gates instead of strike carriers, but you'll get a handful of those in your set. If you are looking at Shaltari, I would probably say if you're buying a starter set, you're going to want a little pack of gates just to boost the number of gates you've got, because they are pivotal, unfortunately, to the way that list plays. So the buy-in cost, I would say, for Shaltari is a little bit higher. The resistance, you can build strike carriers. I'll put some recommended ship builds in here for resistance starters as well. Now, biofighters, again, the same kind of thing. So they don't necessarily have an out-and-out strike carrier, but what you can do is take something called a 4A. Now, the 4A is capable of carrying a cell. So you can effectively put either an invader cell or a lander cell inside of the 4A, and effectively it turns it into a sort of pseudo-strike carrier. So you do have options with the biofighters. So now you should have 4 ships left at this point. 2 of them being medium cruisers, and 2 of them being frigates. Every faction has got a bog standard cruiser. So it's kind of like the baseline cruiser that everything else is built from. For example, you've got the Rio for the UCM, you've got the Sphinx for the Scourge, you've got the Orion for the PHR. I believe it's the Amber for the Shaltari. Resistance is a bit different because you're going to have to build one out. But again, I'll put a recommended build somewhere in this video so you can see that. The biofighters, I believe, I'm going to say it's a Comet. I'm going to have to double check that. My my biofighter naming conventions are not best, so I'm doing that from memory. Okay, so either way, you've got your first standard class cruiser. That'll be enough. If your opponent is kind of building the same sort of starter fleet as you, then you're going to have no problems because you're mostly on an even keel. You then have got the option of a standard frigate class as well. So you've got things like the Toulon, you've got the Harpy, you've got the Europa. I don't know what the Shaltari one is. I think it's an Amethyst. I'm going to correct myself and post whatever the correct version is. If you're a resistance player, I would build out 2 heavy frigates just because you can get more gun on them. And the biofighters, now I'm out to lunch on that one, so I am going to have to put that somewhere in the video so you can see that. So now you're all left with 1 cruiser, and I would build a heavy cruiser, purely because everyone likes more guns, right? You've had to do the boring stuff, putting your troops in. You've taken some real bog standard choices so far, so take something with a bit more sex appeal and have a heavy cruiser. Now, I would probably say at this point, you're going to struggle to go wrong, so you kind of build this to your own tastes. If you want to play around with things like fighters and bombers, then you might be best off taking something like maybe an Edmonton for the PHR, which does give you some additional firepower as well as some fighter bombers. You've got the Kulshedra for the Scourge. You've got the Bellerathan for the PHR. You've got the Scoria, I think it is, for the Shaltari. You can easily build something similar with the Resistance. What the biofighters got? They don't necessarily have a heavy fleet carrier like that one. But what biofighters do have quite a bit of is really nasty get stuck in close action ships in their heavy cruiser class. Some of them carry status weapons like the Cataphract. That may be the way I go. Either the Cataphract or the Catastrophe is probably what I would pick for the biofighters. So here's the rundown. You've now got your starting fleet list. Let's say then it's a troop ship, it's a bog standard ship of the line, it's a heavy cruiser. You've then got your 2 strike carriers and your 2 bog standard frigate classes. Now, if you were to stick them down on a table and sling dice with an opponent, you shouldn't go too far wrong. That should balance out quite neatly. If you're looking to play exact points, then what I would maybe do is go out and pick up a pack of the Corvettes for your faction. Corvettes, you're probably going to be putting into lists anyway. There's something that most lists have, but they're reasonably cheap to add into your list, so it's quite good for filling a list to get to a certain points level to match your opponents. They will be useful because they can hit things in atmosphere, so they go hunting strike carriers. The other thing that a pack of Corvettes is handy for is if you go to TT Combat Direct and order them through there, you can just get 6 Corvettes for reasonably cheap. So it keeps your buying cost nice and low. That's a pretty good starter. What I would maybe recommend is you and a few friends go out, start there. Have a couple of games. When you've got a bit more interest in it, then we'll look at expanding your fleets, and I'll put some faction-focused videos together on here. Now, leave a comment down below with your favorite faction, and the faction with the most comments on this video is going to be the first faction focus that I'll do. I'll focus on the pros and cons of the faction, and what I would maybe do to flesh out this starting list into something a bit bigger. Okay, hopefully that's been really helpful for you. If it hasn't been, let me know. And if it has been, let me know as well. Just, this comment thing down here, loads of them would be great, because that helps us out massively. It makes sure that we can get this video out to the right audience, and it does massively support the channel. Speaking of, if you would like to like and subscribe while you're there, that would be amazing. There's going to be a lot more Dropfleet content coming. It seems to be one of, if not the most popular thing that we're covering at the moment, along with Warhammer Underworlds. So if you want to see more of both of those, you are in the right place. Anyway, rambled on enough. Thank you very much for watching. Catch you on the flip.